Welcome to Lights Camera Author. I'm Jim Juno. Today we're exploring one of the biggest misconceptions in film history. Why one of cinema's greatest geniuses became the spokesman for wine, whiskey, frozen foods, and even tires. Was it artistic failure or financial desperation? Well, our guest today says we've misunderstood Orson Welles for decades. I have Robert Kroll. He's joining us today to talk about his remarkable new book, Orson Welles Commercial Break, published by Bear Manor Media. Robert, welcome to Light Camera Author.
Oh, Jim, thank you. It's great doing this. I've been, like I said, looking forward to it.
Well, thank you so much. Now most film lovers, they know Orson Welles by Citizen Kane or his other movies, Magnificent Ambersons, The Third Man. Others remember him from the famous or infamous Paul Masson wine commercials. But what inspired you to spend years researching this overlooked chapter in his career?
You know, I'm an old newsman at heart. So when it comes to, I guess, finding the scoop on something, I'm going to run with it because I want to be the one to report on it. But it goes back to Indiana University having a symposium. They were announcing a symposium for the centenary of Wells' birth for 2015, and they did this in September 2014. And I just thought, I want to be a part of this. I have to be a part of it. My dad was a big Orson Welles fan. He left us a few years ago. My grandpa was a fan. And going back to the 30s, he would not tell anyone what he did the night of the War of the Worlds. I think he was a little too embarrassed. And I thought, I got to find a way to get in. And I just started jotting down ideas. It's like, I don't want to write about Citizen Kane, broadly speaking. I got to do something unique and something I can latch on to. And just a stray note as I wrote about do the commercials. And I just started looking at them and it's like, this is really neat, but nobody's really written about them. Like there's stray bits here and there, like a mention about them in one book or like just a little bit in another. And like, but this is such a massive part of his story that went unexplored. It's like, well, I'm going to take it upon myself and do it. And over time, it went from okay, I think I have an idea for this presentation to I have an idea for a whole full-on book because I kept
Yeah.
being able to get all these papers, look at all these archives, and most importantly, I think, interview all these people that actually got to work with him on these. And they'd never been interviewed in previous books or anywhere that I could find before. And they tell me they'd never been asked about it. And they were very happy, very open to speak about it. And like I can't not at that point. That's
Yeah.
got it. And take it took me 12 years to do it. And just like you said, no wine before it's time. I wanted to make sure everything was right before it went out.
A lot of people see Orson Welles on YouTube at that, and there's one particular Paul Masson. Um, we call it an outtake, okay?
Yep, I know the ones.
Yes, and he's slurring his words. He's doesn't have much life in him at the moment, and so let me ask you point blank, was he drunk during that shot?
You know, I'm I have I have to put it this way. I have my own theories. I'm going to keep those to myself. That said, as one of my friends pointed out, and because I honestly believe this, like I put it in the book, it's the Paul Masson Rashomon. There's a lot. I talked to a lot of people that were there that night. I've read a lot of the files, and there's some people will straight up say, "Oh yeah, he was." Some people point out he was feeling the effects of a sleeping pill that just would like ill the releasing of it was poorly timed in his body. Others blame other medications. Some swear that he had a thermos of vodka on the set. Some people claimed that he had a thermos, but there was no vodka. They checked it out. So I'm leaving that up to the reader. I at very least the one thing I wanted to do was present people with actual information about what happened that night as opposed to somebody watching a very unfortunate 1 minute of outtakes
Yes.
and then infer everything from there. Because one of the other one of the things to consider though is right the day after they did that filming, there was a screening at the offices for Doyle Dane Bernbach, the agency that was in charge of the Paul Masson account at the time, and they were running those outtakes as kind of a "you gotta see what happened last night" kind of thing. So one of
Well, yeah.
yeah, so
So they really liked it, didn't they?
well, that's the thing. There's some people there was a lot of laughs, but for other people it was abject horror. Like we can't let
Yeah.
this get out. And one of the problems that happens over time is that the tape it went from 16 millimeter to a VHS, and it was so degraded over time. At one point, when you see Wells doing this in the final outtake,
Uh-huh.
some people, because you could see it crisper on film on a big screen, some people were saying they could actually see tears rolling down his eyes.
Mm.
So, but some people also claimed, no, there's not tears. He's in a sleeping pill and he's rubbing his eyes to wake up.
Nice. Well, the one thing that struck me about your book was the central argument that you made that the commercials, they weren't evidence of Wells' decline.
No.
They were actually part of his career from the beginning.
Hmm.
And that's a different way of looking at his life.
Oh yeah. Initially, when I was going to do the presentation in 24, when I was starting to brainstorm it in 2014, I set up a relatively firm boundary to maybe the early 70s when he did a Jim Beam ad with his daughter. Um, and then I was going to just go to the very end with the Paul Masson stuff. That's good for 20 minutes, but I remember I'm a massive comic book fan, and I was coming home
Mhm.
from my regular shop one day. It was kind of snowing out. The traffic was moving slow. My dad calls me up and says, "Bob, I'm listening to The Shadow, and Orson Welles is doing tire commercials there. Are you going to do that in your presentation?" And I thought, no, but I mean, I wasn't until now because that's incredible. Why didn't I think of that before? This slingshots all the way back to the past. He had to do those commercials for the he was doing the Goodrich tire commercials, the Silvertown tire commercials, but he would have had to do things for Cresta Blanca wines. I was very amused hearing a Pabst Blue Ribbon advertisement, and actors were expected to do that in the 1940s. That was just part of the work. If they were going to be on the radio, they're also going to advertise whoever is sponsoring the show. It's just that in the intervening decades, it became the commercials are meant for people that have fallen from grace, or they can't get any other work. And that's what who the commercials are for, or starving beginning actors like Bryan
Yeah.
Cranston being in a Preparation H commercial in the early 80s. I find that, but people do that. So it's like it's either a venue for fallen stars or people getting their start. Ostensibly not Orson Welles, but it's like this is the way it used to be. He was just falling back, not just, but it's the way he was falling back on what he was doing back in the 40s.
Yes. I remember watching an old Marx Brothers. Harpo Marx was doing beer commercials back in the 50s.
Yeah,
And so the commercials that Wells did actually financed many of his films, didn't they?
There's a great there's a great story in Josh Karp's book about the making of The Other Side of the Wind. Oh jeez, of course I'm gonna paraphrase right now. Sorry, Josh
It's
Karp,
okay.
please forgive me, but it's something to the effect of like neither Wells nor its star John Huston knew how to drive a car. They hit some bumps and one of the cameras broke, and they were like, what do we got to do? And Wells literally just said, don't worry, I'll just go do another commercial. So I'll go do another commercial. I'll use that money to get a new camera. So yeah, he was pumping the money from those into his own features. They might not have always gotten released. Like there's the demo films he did for the Dreamers, uh,
Mhm.
Music Dennison, and other short things that he did on his own that didn't get wide release. But this also still goes back to the 1930s when he was working for the Federal Theater Project for the Works Progress Administration. He was doing the shadow to pump money into Cradle Roll, the Cradle Will Rock, or Mc, the popularly referred to Voodoo Macbeth.
Did you uncover any commercials that you mentioned a couple of them for that he did, and we've already talked about the Paul Masson material, but any commercials that longtime Wells historians had forgotten?
Oh my gosh, the one of my favorites I discovered during the pandemic. It was for Nashua Copiers, and it's a 60-second
Mhm.
commercial of him performing magic on screen. With he's wearing all black, there's a black velvet background, he's doing tricks with cards. There's, excuse me, early green screen technology in there. He's making things float in the air, and by the time I found it, I think it had maybe 25 views on it and had been on YouTube for a few months. So yeah, I'd never seen it, and it blew up on YouTube after that. So I
Wow.
knew of nobody that knew of that commercial. Um, I was happy to find one of my great white whales was a commercial for Domecq Sherry in England, where it actually featured two wells on screen and with early split screen technology. I'm forgetting the gentleman's name right now, but it was the split screen technology would have been done by somebody from 2001: A Space Odyssey. And it was
Oh,
on
yeah.
a little British archive online. Like, so I don't think people really knew about these, especially because they're also keeping in mind these were from the copy machine commercial would have only aired really in Australia. The Domecq one would have only aired in England, so it's not going to be as popular over here as Paul Masson.
I think people aren't aware of that even today because a lot of even modern celebrities will do commercials that only air in Japan.
Yeah,
Or, yeah, I mean, I remember Schwarzenegger did that once, I think, when he was at the height of his career.
yeah.
Um, but why do you think the commercials, especially the Paul Masson ones, and we keep mentioning that one, don't mean to, but
Oh, yeah.
uh,
It's
but well, why do you think they overshadowed everything else he accomplished?
unfortunately, I think I'm a teetotaler now. And to maybe to a nod to my old punk rock friends, completely straight edge now. And I managed to sip a little Paul Masson wine, or what was referred to before they discontinued it in 2018. It's not very good. I'm sorry. It's not very good. And also, I can't go to the actual winery now. It's just referred to as the Mountain Winery. I can't drink that either. But it's just not very good. And I can understand why people would like, this is not very good wine. Why is the guy who made Citizen Kane doing this? So there is that disconnect there. It's not especially great wine, but also as I was reminded, at the time, like America wasn't quite the into wine yet as they would
Yes.
eventually maybe now. So that's
Now
why
you
I
go
think
into
that ends up overshadowing things. Like why is this guy doing this now? Whereas nowadays we I I saw John Cena in a commercial over the weekend. He's not going to lose any
yeah.
box office from that.
My co-host wants to make an appearance.
Yeah,
Come
if
on
your
up here.
co-host has any
There you
questions, I'm very happy to
go.
take them.
There she is. Okay. Now, get down now, please. Okay. She's actually the co-owner of the show. I have to do what she says.
All right.
So but now the infamous outtakes, let's talk about frozen peas for a moment.
Yeah. See, I didn't uncover as much about that one, I admit, as I wanted. I talked about that at the start of the book, kind of like to head it off before anybody asks anything. Um, I'm reminded of a book. I'm reminded of a book by the magician or illusionist, I should better just say probably Ricky Jay. His book Learned Pigs and Fireproof Women. He started off his book pointing out, yeah, great title, great book. But he pointed out the at the beginning one of the illusionists that he wanted to cover, and the paragraph alone was like, "This person's incredible." And then Jay said something to the effect of, "I'm not covering this person in the book because they're not the most interesting person." Frozen Peas was slightly like that for me. It's an interesting story, and I find it funny because Wells did make the guys that wanted to record that follow him around Europe, like, "Oh, you guys just missed me, nuts!" Like he made him work for it, which I find that very funny, but also I can hear him get it. I can catch him getting a little testy on the set with that one. You can't blame medication or the booze on that one. I think they were I just don't think they knew how to write copy. Wells would let you know if the copy was good. He was
uh,
very forthcoming about that.
he had such a great voice, and I envy the guy who can do his voice now. The guy who used to do Pinky and the Brain.
Yeah, Maurice LaMarche. Yeah, he's great.
And now, but you found in your book, you found like a lot of legendary actors appeared in commercials.
Oh yeah.
Gregory Peck, Henry Fonda. Oh, Henry Fonda did GAF, Viewmaster
Yeah.
commercials.
Oh yeah, and
You
because of
know,
Mystery Science Theater 3000, among my friends and I, we will always comment on the great floors.
yes. And so, but yet Orson Welles somehow became the symbol for selling out. None of these other people did. Why is
Right.
that?
Wells is more prolific with them.
Mm.
And unfortunately, a lot of those other people were able to do a lot of those advertisements in Japan. Um, and I think a lot of it, at least for the people in Japan, one, obviously those ads really aren't going to make it over here. But two, is that you'll never, or not specifically never, but it's rare that you're going to see somebody in a Japanese commercial indulge in the actual product that they're advertising. So, like, one of my favorite examples that I brought up in the book is that the Bee Gees. They were advertising TDK tapes. You never see them even go near a cassette player. They just kind of hang out, strike their Bee Gees smile and pose by a old vinyl jukebox, and then TDK tapes. Like, so that's all you're gonna get from that. But even then, like anybody else in America, it might just have been a one-off advertisement. Laurence
Yeah.
Olivier he was doing camera commercials, but that was
Yes,
like
that's
a
right.
effectively a one and done type thing. I don't know if he did many others. I'm sure if somebody can correct me on that, that's great. But he didn't do as many. Whereas at that time, Wells is it's Vivitar cameras. Here's Jim Beam. Here's Paul Masson. And
Hmm.
overseas, it's Demek Sherry. It's G&G Nico whiskey. And hey, here he is in a movie trailer. And how many times has he been on the Tonight Show this year? I think he was more willing to put himself out there than other people.
He also had creative control over his advertising. I mean, he wasn't just reading copy. He was writing it and directing it. So it was like
Sometimes.
mini movies sometimes.
Sometimes he could. Sometimes he could. He could have a little sway, but he knew when to play the good soldier, except except when it came towards the end of the Parmesan campaign. Uh,
Yeah.
Actually, more often than not, people would actually point out, especially Judy Williams, who wrote the ads for. This is the one that really got me with the internet, and to maybe again answer the question from earlier, things that scholars might not know a lot about. First National Bank Shreveport in Louisiana.
Wow.
So I thought that was incredible because he did that right after Paul Masson, and um borrowing her story for a moment, when he Wells was first reading the copy, he went he immediately put on the gruff guy who wrote this copy. And William, she rose her hand very, I did, and he said, "It's lovely. Let's keep doing it." And he was just very, he was like, he was ready to play with that image of, "Oh, I'm gonna
I'm
mess
Orson
with you."
Welles. You know.
Right.
Well,
But and because to go back to Frozen Peas briefly, um, potential advertisers were passing that tape around to say, this is what you're getting into. But fortunately, again, maybe breaking that myth a bit, the copy machine commercial, the people working on that, the Murray Evans agency in Australia, they they listened to the Frozen Peace tape even before they started shooting, and they're like, oh wait, it's nothing like that. He was just giving those guys a hard time. Um, First National Bank Shreveport, it's like, no, he's doing all right. But once in a while, yeah, he could flex and say, can we move the camera, or can we do the lighting like this? Or he was also very specific about getting his cue card guy, Barney McNulty, the creator of cue cards. He was very adamant about making sure Barney was there.
Well, now let's go back to Citizen Kane for a moment
Yeah.
because in your book you write something that caught my attention. It was that a lot of people know, almost everyone knows, William Randolph Hearst wanted to kill the film
Hmm.
because he thought that his lover Marion Davies was being portrayed in a negative light.
Hmm.
Um, but Wells fought back using advertising, didn't he?
Yeah, the trailer I really love because thinking back, because he starts off the trailer like, we hope to call this a coming attraction, coming soon to this theater. And like, it's not saying the theater doesn't want you to see this or the man doesn't want you to see this. He's very gently saying, we hope this is coming. Because also behind the scenes, he's talking to George Schaefer, the head of RKO, saying, you were supposed to release this by now.
Yeah.
Get get to it. Because we have a contract. Let's get this thing out there. And so I thought, like, behind the scenes, he is being the bull that he should be to get Citizen Kane out. But to the front, not only is it like, hey, we want you to see this movie, but you don't even see him in the preview. He's giving the camera over to Joe Cotton and Ruth Warwick, and my favorite bit, Everett Sloan in the trailer. His parts are all my favorites because him goofing around and being Everett Sloan. So yeah, that hopefully to like drum up interest in having people knock on the door of the theaters and say, "Can we get Citizen Kane?"
Yes. Now, what's the next project for you?
My next project is a book about George W. Trendle. He he opened up some of the
Okay.
first movie theaters in Michigan, if not the first in Michigan. He started WXYZ AM radio, which led to FM, which still ran into WXY TV as we know it as Channel 7 here in Detroit. But he is also, depending how you look at it, creator or co-creator of the Green Hornet and the Lone Ranger, which are,
Yes, I knew that name from someplace,
yeah,
and I
I
couldn't place it. I think,
yeah, and it's just astounding to me. It's like, wow, these are homegrown Michigan, Detroit things, and all the papers are at the Detroit Public Library, so I don't have to go to New York or Los
oh
Angeles to get
wow.
this material anymore. I'll just go down the road.
And for those of you out there who are Green Hornet fans, probably know that he's supposed to be what a descendant of the Lone Ranger,
Yeah,
something like that.
yeah, John Reed is Britt Reed's uncle. So
Yes, that's amazing. Yes, I really look forward to that. When will that, do you know what, you have a release date yet?
I remember in 2016 saying, I'm going to be done with this book in 2 years, and it came out last month. I'm sticking
Well,
with 5 years because again, all the materials up the road. So again, no wine before it's time.
no problem.
I'm doing this one right.
Well, the author's name is Robert Kroll, and his book is Orson Welles Commercial Break. It's published by Bear Manor Media. As always, look down in the lower left-hand corner. That will take you to the publisher page for the book. Robert, I really have enjoyed having you on Lights Camera Author today.
Oh man, this has been a blast. Thank you for having me.
No problem. And for everybody, please like and subscribe. That's our shameless plug that we always do. And until next time, I'm Jim Juno, and this has been Lights Camera Author.